Ever feel emotionally drained around someone and you can't quite explain why? What if evil doesn't wear a mask, but walks beside you every day? And what if ancient Stoic wisdom could help you see what your eyes alone can't? Welcome to Stoic Bridge, the bridge between ancient wisdom and modern life, guiding you through life's storms with calm and resilience. There's a certain kind of presence that unsettles the room. It doesn't shout, it doesn't threaten, but it changes the energy quietly. You've likely felt it before. Someone enters the space and suddenly your body tightens, your thoughts scatter, and a voice deep inside whispers, "Something's not right," but you can't always explain why. That's because true evil doesn't always look the way we expect. It doesn't show up with flashing red flags, snarling rage, or obvious malice. Instead, it blends in. It's subtle, polished, sometimes even charming. But beneath the surface, it manipulates, drains, and corrupts. The Stoics, thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, understood this. They taught that the greatest danger at Ekener often comes not from visible force, but from invisible influence. And that protecting your peace begins with recognizing what seeks to quietly destroy it. This video will walk you through 10 evident signs of a truly malicious person, signs that go beyond basic toxicity. From subtle manipulation and emotional deflection to charm used as a weapon, lies without remorse, and an absence of empathy that chills the soul. Each behavior is a signal, and the more clearly you see them, the more power you gain to respond, not with fear, but with clarity, boundaries, and strength. If you've ever second-guessed your instincts, felt confused after a conversation, or wondered why someone's presence leaves you doubting yourself, this is the moment you stop ignoring the signs. Because awareness is your first act of power, and in this space, together, we learn how to rise above darkness with calm, conviction, and stoic resilience. Let's begin. Number 1, constant manipulation. Imagine walking through a foggy forest. The path beneath your feet feels familiar, but something about the air is off, thick, disorienting. You take a few more steps only to realize you're no longer sure where you're going. That's what it feels like to be manipulated. Subtle, confusing, and quietly dangerous. Seneca once wrote, "He who has many fears also has many things to manipulate." It's more than just a reflection. It's a caution. Because fear gives manipulators their favorite tool, control over perception. These individuals don't build influence through truth or integrity. They thrive in distortion. They twist facts, stretch half-truths, and weaponize lies, not with rage, but with whispers that sound helpful. I remember working with a colleague I initially admired. He always praised my work in front of others, made me feel seen, appreciated, and capable. But beneath that polished kindness was a different story unfolding, one I didn't see at first. Behind the scenes, he began carefully sowing seeds of doubt. Little by little, he pointed out issues in my work to upper management, tiny mistakes inflated into major concerns. And when I finally gathered the courage to confront him, he didn't react with anger. Instead, he smiled gently and said he was only trying to help me improve. His calmness made me pause. Was I overreacting? Was I really underperforming? That's the genius of manipulation. It doesn't just confuse your thoughts, it shakes your core. I began to doubt my instincts, second-guess my decisions, and slowly started leaning on him for validation. Not because he had earned it, but because he had engineered it. This is how manipulation sinks its teeth in. It doesn't come with noise, it erodes silently, weakening your confidence and reshaping your reality. True manipulators don't nurture relationships with honesty or mutual respect. They scan for insecurities, then exploit them. They convince you they're the only one who understands you, the only one who can guide you. And before you realize it, you're walking their path, not your own. But Stoic wisdom offers a way out. Both Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus remind us that strength lies in self-awareness. When you master your own mind, you become immune to the traps of others. A truly virtuous person will never pull you into dependence. They'll guide you toward your own strength, toward clarity and autonomy. So, if someone in your life constantly wants to lead, constantly urges you to follow them without respecting your boundaries, consider it a warning light. Epictetus said it best, "No man is free who is not master of himself." You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You simply need to step away from their game and reclaim your freedom. Because once your mind is your own again, you'll clearly see who never deserved to shape it in the first place. Now let's move to the next revealing sign, one that often hides behind a smile, the mask of charm. Number 2, a mask of charm. It's easy to be dazzled by a sparkling surface, like staring into a polished mirror that reflects only what you want to see. But sometimes the most dangerous illusions are wrapped in beauty, not threat. Epictetus once reminded us that appearances, no matter how radiant, often conceal deeper truths. And nowhere is this more evident than in people who use charm as a mask. Have you ever met someone whose charisma seemed almost cinematic? Their smile, perfectly timed. Their words, effortlessly soothing. They made you feel like the most important person in the room, like you were finally seen, heard, and valued. At first, it feels genuine. You find yourself drawn to them, maybe even grateful to have such a rare, thoughtful person in your life. But then, as time passes, the shine begins to wear off. Little cracks appear in the illusion. You start to wonder, was it ever real? Charm, when it's sincere, is a beautiful thing. It brings people together. It fosters connection, builds bridges of trust, and plants the seeds for lasting relationships. But in the hands of someone with darker motives, charm becomes a mask, a calculated performance, not a reflection of the soul. These individuals know exactly what to say to lower your guard. They mirror your values, your emotions, your desires. They seem like the perfect friend, the ideal partner, the mentor you've always wanted. But behind that carefully crafted exterior lies something far colder: selfishness, deception, and a hunger for control. Marcus Aurelius warned, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And when those thoughts are rooted in manipulation, the charm they project becomes a hollow shell, polished on the outside, empty within. So how can you see through the illusion? Pay attention to what happens when they think no one's watching. How do they treat people who offer them nothing? Do they extend kindness without an audience, or only when there's something to gain? Words, after all, can be rehearsed, but actions, especially the quiet, unnoticed ones, reveal a person's true character. I once had a friend who could make anyone feel adored. Compliments flowed from him like poetry, each one perfectly tailored to whoever stood before him. People loved him, trusted him, but with time, I saw the pattern. His praise was a currency, offered only when it served a purpose, and when that purpose dried up, so did his attention. Worse still, he would mock or criticize the very people he once flattered, once they were no longer useful to him. That's when it became clear his charm wasn't connection, it was control. So what can you do? First, trust the quiet signals from within. If someone makes you feel special, but your intuition whispers something's off, listen. Don't let glitter blind you to substance. Stoic philosophy reminds us that truth doesn't need embellishment. Authentic goodness doesn't perform, it simply is. True kindness doesn't shine for attention. It glows quietly, even when no one's watching. So look past the enchanting surface. Observe the consistency between words and actions. And remember, genuine character never needs a disguise. Coming up next, we'll explore another chilling trait: when lying becomes second nature, lies without conscience. Number 3, lies without conscience. Picture a glass of clear water slowly turning murky, drop by drop, lie by lie, until you can no longer see what's true beneath the surface. That's what it feels like to deal with someone who lies without a second thought. The distortion is gradual, but dangerously effective. Marcus Aurelius once offered a simple but profound truth. Nothing should be done if it isn't right, and nothing should be said if it isn't true. But for those with a dark agenda, truth isn't a guide. It's a hurdle, an inconvenience that stands between them and what they want. They don't lie out of laziness or misunderstanding. They lie with precision. Deception for them isn't an occasional escape, it's a way of life. Their lies are carefully constructed, often wrapped in just enough truth to make them believable. The purpose to gain admiration, escape consequences, or worse, to quietly rewrite reality until you begin to doubt your own memory. I once knew someone who always seemed to have a story to impress. One day she claimed she had single-handedly led a high-stakes project, one that earned praise from senior leadership. She spoke with such confidence, such detail, that even I applauded her achievement. But later, as I reviewed the project documents and email chains, a different story unfolded. Not only was she not the lead, she had contributed very little. And when gently confronted, she didn't admit the truth. Instead, she turned the tables. "You misunderstood," she said, or "That's not what I meant." Then she'd swiftly change the topic or throw out unrelated details to cloud the conversation. This is the classic tactic of a seasoned manipulator, make you question your perception while they quietly reshape the truth. They chip away at your clarity, pushing you to rely on their version of events. But here's the flaw in their strategy. Truth is steady. It doesn't need defense, embellishment, or correction. Lies, however, are brittle. They demand maintenance, constant adjustment, and layers of falsehood to survive. Eventually, they collapse under their own weight. So how do you protect yourself? Start by observing. Do their stories shift slightly each time they're told? Do their actions back up their claims or contradict them? Stoic wisdom teaches us not to focus on what people say, but on what they do. Words can deceive. Actions expose the truth. If you notice a pattern of dishonesty, no matter how subtle, don't brush it aside. Ask questions, trust your instincts, set clear boundaries, because when someone lies without guilt, without hesitation, they reveal not just a flaw, but a deeper disregard for truth and integrity. And when dishonesty becomes their default, it's not your job to fix them. It's your responsibility to step away. As Stoicism reminds us, real strength lies in mastering our inner world, our thoughts, our responses, our values. And part of that mastery is knowing when to walk away from what threatens our peace. So if you find yourself entangled in someone's web of deceit, hold your ground, trust your clarity, and don't be afraid to choose truth over comfort. Next, we'll explore a different but equally dangerous trait when empathy is absent and cold indifference takes its place: lack of empathy. Number 4, lack of empathy. Think of a bridge, sturdy, essential, built to connect two distant sides. Empathy functions in much the same way. It links hearts, it carries compassion across divides. And when that bridge is missing, what remains is isolation, even in the presence of others. Seneca once observed, humans are social creatures, not meant to live solely for themselves. That's because we're wired for connection, real connection. And empathy is the invisible force that allows us to share in the experiences of others, their joy, their sorrow, their struggles and triumphs. But for truly malicious individuals, empathy doesn't exist. Others aren't fellow travelers on the road of life, they're pawns, pieces to be moved, used, or discarded depending on what serves their agenda. They don't care about your happiness unless it benefits them. They're not moved by your pain. unless it creates an opening they can exploit. The absence of empathy in such people isn't just a character flaw, it's a warning light, flashing from the emptiness inside them. Imagine this scenario. You're sitting across from someone you consider a friend. You've had a rough week, maybe something's been weighing heavily on your heart, so you open up, you speak your truth, hoping for comfort, or at the very least, understanding. But instead of support, you get something else. A shrug, a change of subject, or worse, a response like, "You think that's bad? Let me tell you about my day." Your vulnerability, dismissed. Your pain, trivialized. And if this only happened once, perhaps you'd overlook it. But with them, it's never just once. It's a pattern, a cold, repeating indifference. These people don't or won't step outside their own egos to connect with your experience. Sometimes their lack of empathy is subtle, like emotional detachment. Other times, it's chilling, like a quiet satisfaction in watching others suffer. You may even sense that your pain to them feels like power. This void where empathy should reside doesn't just make conversations awkward, it makes relationships hollow. What should be an exchange of emotion becomes one-sided, transactional, exhausting. Malicious individuals are skilled at pretending to care when it serves a purpose. But as soon as the spotlight dims, their true nature reveals itself. And it's cold, calculated, empty. Marcus Aurelius once advised, no more arguing about what a good man should be one. In other words, don't waste energy trying to explain empathy to someone who's chosen to live without it. Instead, embody what they lack and protect your peace from their influence. So what should you do when you're faced with that kind of emotional void? Set boundaries, clear ones. Refuse to internalize their coldness. And most importantly, don't let their absence of empathy make you question your own worth. Instead, seek out relationships rooted in warmth, mutual respect, and emotional reciprocity. Surround yourself with people who are truly present, those who celebrate your joy and stand beside you through grief. Because real connection is not about taking, it's about sharing. And empathy is the soul of that exchange. Before we move on to the next sign, if this message resonates with you, please give this video a like, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's next. And if you're seeing these signs in your own life, drop a comment below. I see the signs. Up next, we'll explore a darker desire that drives truly toxic individuals, their relentless hunger for control. Number 5, the hunger for control. Control can be subtle, like invisible strings quietly guiding a puppet's every move, and by the time you feel the pull, it's often too late to notice who's been holding the strings all along. For a truly malicious person, control isn't just a habit, it's their lifeline. Their sense of power, security, and identity all depend on how much of your life they can dominate. Your choices, your confidence, your closest relationships, even your thoughts become targets. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Your mind is under your control, not external circumstances." And that realization, it's liberating, it's empowering. But for someone who thrives on control, that inner freedom is a threat. They know if they can bend your mind, they can shape your reality. And once they control your thoughts, they don't need to control anything else because they already own the core of who you are. I once trusted someone who seemed wise and caring. Their advice felt thoughtful, their support genuine. I often turned to them when I was uncertain, believing they had my best interest at heart. But slowly, the pattern revealed itself. Their guidance came wrapped in subtle doubts. They would say things like, "Are you sure you're ready for that?" Or, "I think you need someone more experienced to help you through this." And when I was invited to take on a major opportunity, one I was excited about, they didn't celebrate. They hesitated. And then they suggested, Bedford, that maybe they should take the lead instead. At the time, I agreed. Why? Because their voice had slowly become louder than my own. Their constant feedback had chipped away my trust in myself. It wasn't support. It was strategic. They didn't want to lift me. They wanted to bind me. That's how manipulators work. They don't just want influence. They want domination. They wrap it in soft words dressed up as concern. Sometimes they use guilt. After all I've done for you. Sometimes they use shame. If you really cared, you'd listen to me. Other times it's sweet persuasion, laced with control. Their true investment isn't in your growth, but in your dependency. And the cost of that dependency? You begin doubting yourself, your instincts, your capability, your very worth. Until one day the voice inside you grows so quiet, it's no longer yours. But Epictetus offers a powerful antidote. He wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and that freedom comes from refusing to lie, to be controlled by what lies beyond our influence." Malicious people understand this truth, and that's why they fight so hard to keep you under their thumb. But here's the truth they fear most. You can walk away. You can reclaim your mind. Start by asking yourself, does this align with my values? That question is your compass, your anchor, your first step back to yourself, because autonomy isn't a luxury, it's your birthright. And no one, no matter how persuasive, has the right to take that from you. Marcus Aurelius reminds us the quality of our thoughts determines the happiness of our lives. So don't let anyone color your thoughts with doubt or redefine your worth based on their agenda. Protect your mind. It's the fortress of your freedom. Those who truly love and respect you will never try to control you. They'll empower you to think freely, choose boldly, and grow independently. So stand tall, hold your ground, and let your own mind, unshackled and strong, lead you toward the freedom you've always deserved. In the next sign, we'll expose another one that shifts blame away from themselves and quietly places it on you. Blame games and deflection. Number 6, blame games and deflection. Have you ever watched someone slip out of accountability like a fish escaping through water? So smooth, so effortless, it almost seems rehearsed? That's the mark of a master deflector, someone who turns every mistake into someone else's fault. Seneca once said, "People often prefer trust over judgment," and unfortunately, that trust, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes an open door for manipulation. Malicious individuals exploit this tendency with incredible skill. Instead of standing tall and owning their mistakes, they rewrite the story, casting themselves as innocent, misunderstood, or even worse, as the victim. Blame isn't just their defense, it's their weapon. When something goes wrong, their first instinct isn't reflection, it's redirection. They'll quickly find someone to take the fall, and the way they do it? With unsettling ease. Their tone is soft. Their reasoning sounds logical. They may even appear calm, helpful, and concerned. But behind the mask is a well-crafted narrative designed to shift the burden onto you. I remember working on a high-stakes project with someone I deeply trusted, a friend. Things started to unravel midway through the process, and instead of discussing the issues honestly, she subtly began criticizing my organizational methods. Maybe if we had tracked the milestones more closely, she'd say, with a tone that sounded like advice, but felt like blame. At first, I took her words at face value. I wondered, was I really the problem? Had I missed something critical? But over time, a pattern became clear. Every setback was gently nudged toward my direction. Every flaw subtly implied to be mine, and every opportunity for growth entirely. It wasn't feedback. It was deflection. I was being used as a shield. This is how emotional manipulators work. They tap into your trust, your openness, your willingness to self-reflect, and they twist it into a tool for avoiding their own responsibility. They rely on your kindness to cloud your judgment. They know you'll hesitate to confront them. And while you're busy questioning yourself, they're comfortably dodging the truth. Marcus Aurelius offers us a guiding principle in moments like these. The truth stands on its own. It doesn't need embellishment. It doesn't need spin. It simply is. So when faced with someone who constantly shifts blame, stay grounded in reality, detach from emotion, focus on facts, ask questions, hold them accountable, calmly but directly. And when their narrative doesn't align with reality, don't be afraid to speak the truth. Refusing to play their game is not confrontation, it's self-respect. Setting boundaries in these moments is not harsh, it's necessary. Because integrity means standing by what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. And accountability is the mark of someone who's truly capable of growth. So when you encounter someone who consistently refuses to take responsibility, who weaves stories that turn you into the problem while they remain blameless, it's not just a bad habit, it's a reflection of their character. Protect your peace, don't absorb their blame, and above all, don't lose sight of your own truth in their tangled web of excuses. Next, we move into a far more chilling behavior. When someone not only avoids responsibility but begins to take pleasure in your pain, the pleasure of pain. Number 7, the pleasure of pain. Sometimes the most unsettling smiles aren't the ones worn in anger, but the ones that quietly emerge when someone else stumbles. It's subtle at first, a joke at someone's expense, a smirk in a moment of someone's failure. But underneath that smile lies something far more chilling. The enjoyment of another's suffering. Epictetus once advised, associate with those who make you better. That simple truth draws a line between people who uplift and those who destroy. But malicious individuals, they don't care about growth. They don't want to see you rise. Instead, they scan their surroundings for opportunities to degrade, and they feed off the chaos they help create. This isn't just a flaw in character, it's a deep moral rot. Their satisfaction can come in quiet, almost imperceptible ways. A sarcastic jab disguised as humor. A gleeful chuckle when someone else is criticized. A passive remark about someone's failure followed by a look of smug superiority. And as time goes on, the mask slips further. You begin to see the pattern. They don't build themselves through hard work or integrity. They elevate themselves by tearing others down. I once knew someone like this. She always seemed oddly energized when talking about others' mistakes. She would recount embarrassing moments with exaggerated flair, smiling as she told the story. And one day, when a colleague was publicly reprimanded in front of the team, she laughed, not in shock, not out of discomfort, but with amusement. At first, I brushed it off as indifference, but it wasn't, it was delight. Because in that moment, someone else's pain became her fuel. Instead of offering support or empathy, she amplified the moment, relishing it as a personal win. It wasn't about justice or fairness, it was about control, power, superiority. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than one who never faces adversity." And it's true, people who are fulfilled don't crave the downfall of others. But for those who are hollow inside, adversity becomes a weapon they wield against others, never a lesson they apply to themselves. These individuals don't chase meaning. They chase moments that allow them to feel better by making someone else feel worse. They sabotage, they gossip, they inflict harm, not by accident, but by design, because it feeds their fragile ego. At the root of all this is insecurity, a deep, unspoken fear that they are not enough. So they project that emptiness outward, hoping to cover it with the illusion of superiority. But the satisfaction they feel, it's shallow, temporary, and ultimately hollow. To protect yourself from people like this, Stoic philosophy reminds us of something vital. Your peace, your energy, your self-worth, they are sacred. and they must be guarded fiercely. So recognize the signs. If someone shows indifference to others' pain, or worse, seems to enjoy it, believe what you see. If they obsess over failure or seem to find comfort in your setbacks, distance yourself. Because every moment spent in their presence chips away at your light, and you deserve to be surrounded by people who reflect your worth, not diminish it. Seek out those who genuinely celebrate your growth, those who rise with you, not over you, because real connection isn't built on suffering. It's built on shared joy, mutual respect, and the courage to help each other rise. Next, we'll look at a more calculated form of harm, when someone isolates you to gain control. Isolation as a weapon. Number 8. Isolation as a weapon. Imagine a tree standing alone in an open field. No forest around it, no roots intertwined with others, no shelter from the storm. That's what isolation feels like, when it's carefully orchestrated by someone who seeks control over you. Marcus Aurelius once reflected that human beings are born to cooperate. Our true strength lies in unity, in shared experiences, mutual encouragement, and the steady support of those who genuinely care for us. But for manipulative individuals, this natural connection is a threat. They know that people anchored in healthy relationships are harder to control. So what do? They quietly dismantle your support system, one person, one bond, one doubt at a time. And one of their most powerful tactics, isolation. They won't rip you away from your loved ones overnight. Instead, they'll chip away slowly, methodically. A subtle comment here, a gentle suggestion there, always disguised as concern. I remember someone in my life who, at first, seemed incredibly thoughtful and supportive. She always asked about my day, listened attentively, and even warned me about the toxic influences around me. She would say things like, "Your best friend doesn't really treat you well. Have you noticed?" Or, "Your family just doesn't understand you like I do." At first, I took it as care. Maybe she was just protective. But over time, those comments became more frequent and more pointed. And without even realizing it, I began to pull back from the very people who had always been my strongest anchors. Her tone was never aggressive. It was soft, caring, calculated, but the result was unmistakable. She was isolating me. And once the distance was created, her influence over my emotions, decisions, and self-worth grew stronger. This isn't a coincidence. It's a psychological strategy used by toxic individuals to sow doubt and create dependency. The more alone you feel, the more you begin to believe that they're the only person who truly understands you. And the more isolated you become, the easier you are to manipulate. But here's the truth. They never want you to realize your real strength lies in connection, in the people who uplift you, challenge you, and love you without condition. Authentic relationships aren't barriers. They're your armor. So if you start noticing a growing distance between you and the people who once made you feel safe, heard, and loved, pause, reflect. Ask yourself, is this distance natural or is it being manufactured? Reach back out. Talk to your friends, call your family, confide in those who've always had your back. Because even when life feels uncertain, these people are your foundation, your reminder of who you are outside of manipulation. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we are not meant to live in isolation. We are designed for community, for shared humanity, for the quiet strength that comes from walking life's path together. So don't let anyone cut you off from what makes you resilient. Protect your connections, guard your relationships, and you'll find the strength to rise above even the most subtle forms of control. In the next sign, we'll explore a behavior even more deceptive. When envy disguises itself as advice or concern, jealousy in disguise. Number 9, jealousy in disguise. Imagine lighting a candle in a dim room. Its warm glow brings comfort, clarity, and contrast. But to someone consumed by envy, your light isn't something to admire. It's something that exposes their shadows. And that's when jealousy begins to mask itself, not as hatred, but as kindness. Envy is a quiet toxin. Seneca once said, "Envy is the ulcer of the soul." It doesn't always rage loudly. Often it whispers, dressed in smiles, sugar-coated advice, or seemingly innocent comparisons. And in its most dangerous form, envy doesn't look like hostility at all. It looks like a friend. These individuals can't stomach the joy or success of others. So rather than openly compete or confront their own insecurities, they chip away at you. Under the guise of encouragement, they'll say they're rooting for you while gently placing seeds of doubt in your path. I remember a friend who always seemed sincerely interested in my work. She asked about my projects, praised my milestones, and even celebrated my wins, or so I thought. After completing a major project I was genuinely proud of, she said with a polite smile, "That's great. But maybe next time, push yourself a bit harder to really take it to the next level." On the surface, it sounded like helpful feedback, but something in her tone felt off. Not uplifting, not supportive. It was a quiet cut. A reminder that no matter what I achieved, it might never be enough. It wasn't the words alone, but the energy behind them. Not meant to guide me higher, but to shrink my moment, to make sure the spotlight dimmed just enough so hers didn't feel so far away. Over time, I noticed a pattern. The compliments were often followed by comparisons. That's impressive, but I heard someone else did something even more impactful. Or, you did well, but let's not get carried away. There's always someone better. That's not support, that's strategy. A calculated way to bring you back down to their level so your light no longer casts a shadow over their own insecurity. Envy doesn't celebrate, it competes in silence. It watches from the sidelines with a smile that's tight and eyes that linger just a little too long. These people don't want you to thrive because your success threatens the illusion they've built about themselves. Your growth highlights where they've stayed still. But Stoic wisdom reminds us of a powerful truth. Your intuition is your greatest compass. If someone's praise feels hollow, trust that. If their feedback leaves you more doubtful than inspired, pause. Beneath the polish, there may be envy lurking. A truly kind soul will lift you up without hesitation. They'll celebrate your wins, not challenge them. They'll encourage you, not because they feel small, but because they see your potential clearly and want more for you. On the other hand, a jealous person will use words not as support, but as subtle weapons, meant to disorient, to control, and to gradually erode your confidence. So how do you protect your light? Set clear emotional boundaries. Guard your self-worth fiercely, and surround yourself with people who not only clap when you rise, but help build the ladder to get you there. You were never meant to dim your brilliance just to make others feel more comfortable. You were meant to shine. And as we move into the final sign, we'll uncover perhaps the most dangerous trait of all. When someone refuses to reflect, repent, or change, the unrepentant heart. Number 10, the unrepentant heart. Imagine planting a seed in dry, cracked soil. No matter how much care you give it, sunlight, water, time, it simply won't grow. Why? Because the ground refuses to receive it. That's what it feels like. Trying to reason with someone who refuses to reflect, apologize, or change. One of the most unmistakable signs of a truly malicious person is an unrepentant heart. Marcus Aurelius once said, "We shouldn't waste time debating what a good person should be. Instead, we should focus on being one, through actions, humility, and continuous self-improvement." But those with malevolent tendencies do the exact opposite. They cling to their destructive patterns like armor. They never admit fault, no matter how much pain they've caused, and they certainly don't apologize or seek to make things right. Instead, they live in denial. crafting elaborate justifications for their behavior, painting themselves as the misunderstood party in every situation. Think about someone you've known who always had an excuse for everything. Every misstep, blamed on the timing, the stress, or someone else's mistake. And when they hurt others, whether through words or actions, there's never an apology, just a deflection. Well, if they hadn't provoked me, or it wasn't that bad, they're just too sensitive. When confronted with the pain they've caused, they don't listen, they don't pause, they don't reflect. They simply shift the blame, or worse, turn the guilt back onto the very people they've wounded. What truly reveals their character is not the mistake itself, but the refusal to grow from it. To them, self-reflection is weakness. Admitting wrongs is vulnerability. And change, that's something other people need to do, not them. They wear their stubbornness like a badge of honor, mistaking pride for strength. But this mindset stands in direct conflict with Stoic philosophy. A Stoic doesn't fear reflection. A Stoic embraces the difficult path of introspection, correction, and redemption. They understand that true strength is shown in the courage to say, "I was wrong, and I'm working to be better." Those with unrepentant hearts not only harm others, they deny themselves the opportunity to evolve. They stay frozen in the comfort of their excuses, rejecting any doorway to maturity or growth. If someone in your life constantly deflects blame, justifies every harmful action, and never attempts to repair the damage they've done, pause. Look closely, because not everyone is willing to grow, not everyone wants to change. And that's not a reflection of your failure to reach them. It's a reflection of their refusal to face themselves. Your energy is sacred. Invested in those who have the courage to own their flaws and work on them. People who lift you up, not by pretending to be perfect, but by striving to be better alongside you. Marcus Aurelius left us a timeless reminder. Focus your mind on thoughts and people who elevate the quality of your life. And now that we've explored all 10 signs, let's step back and reflect on what they reveal and how you can protect your peace in a world where such darkness exists. After exploring these 10 evident signs, it's clear that evil doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers through manipulation, hides behind charm, thrives in lies, and quietly erodes your confidence, your peace, and your sense of self. We've uncovered how it disguises itself in control, blame, emotional detachment, envy, and even in those who refuse to change. Chilling, isn't it? But here's what's even more powerful than darkness: your awareness. Because awareness is what turns fear into clarity. It's what transforms confusion into strength. And once you begin to recognize these tactics, however subtle, however well disguised, you no longer fall prey to them. You rise above. Evil individuals don't thrive because they're powerful. They thrive because others don't yet see through their illusions. But the moment you do, everything changes. You begin to protect your energy. You start setting firm boundaries. And most importantly, you stop allowing others to control your peace. As Marcus Aurelius wisely taught, true strength lies in mastering your mind and your reactions. So don't let toxic people occupy your mental space. Don't give them the power to dim your light or disturb your inner calm. Stand tall, be firm, and shine anyway, because your light is the very thing they fear the most. If this video gave you clarity or strength, let it be a sign. Hit that like button, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you're beginning to notice the signs around you, drop a comment below. I see the signs. Let's keep growing, learning, and protecting what truly matters together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, where your wisdom will continue to rise.